Okay, so what I'm going to do now is show you a short little tutorial on the SoundCraft Folio SX, and this is just to kind of to top up your knowledge from your practicals. Now, I've got a funny image here in the sense that it's a kind of a diagonal image of the mixing desk that we use for our live sound portable PA setup. And I know this is not helpful, but if I could find a high-res image online of the top of the main panel of the mixing desk, then that'd be great. But this will suffice. This will do, because we can see all the relative functions on a channel strip. So this is just a top up, so it's going to be brief. Okay, so at the top here, on all these channels, these are all our input channels. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Okay, and at the top here, we've got certain inputs and outputs and inserts and stuff. And the first one up there is a direct out. Now that is only used if you're sending the signal directly out once the gain has been added to the signal. Okay, so for the practical, ignore that. Here's an XLR input. It's our balanced input, and this is where your mic or your DI connection will come into. Then you have a line input. Now, if you're sticking a 1/4-inch jack, mono or stereo, or balanced or unbalanced, then that can go in there. That could be things like guitars, synths, CD decks, iPods, that kind of stuff. But the thing is about that is that if you do want to put a guitar or whatever in there, then you're looking at it to be a short cable. If it's going to be a long cable between the desk and the instruments, then it's advisable to use the DI. That's where the XLR comes in. Okay, and then you've got an insert, and basically what this does, this actually sends the once you put a send and return jack in here, or it looks like a stereo jack, that will then go into here, and that will send the signal out, and then it will come back in again to carry on down the path of the channel. Okay, so that's that area described. Here is our gain, trim, or sensitivity knob. Different companies use different names, all mean the same thing. This is just basically getting the preamp to boost the signal that's coming in from our microphone or from our line input. So to turn this up, you want to do this quite gradually. Now, before you do that, you might as well come over to here to the very, very bottom and press the PFL, pre-fade listen knob. And if I go down here, that will then send the signal visually to this area here. And this is the meter, a visual representation of what's happening through the system. And we want it to sit nicely at 0 dB, roughly. It might just peak into the yellows a couple of times, but that's about it. We don't want it peeking into the red, because that will give distortion. Okay, so we put the PFL on. We've got our gain. We're raising our gain up, and now we're going to be seeing the signal. Whoever's playing that signal will come through to here. Now remember, if you're using a DI box, a passive DI box, or a condenser microphone, you're going to need the phantom power, this switch here. This needs to be down so the light is on, and that will send a global phantom power. And what I mean by global is that it means it goes across all the channels. Okay, many desks have individual or grouped plus 48, but in this case it's a global one. Okay, so then so we've seen the signal, we've got the gain going up. Now we need to make sure we actually can hear it. Okay, so you have to press this purple button down. That will make it turn on. If it's up, it's off. Okay, and then we also want our mix or sub button to be up. In the up position, it's in the mix. If in the down, it's in the sub. Now that means over here, our yellow ones are our mix, our left and right mix. That's what will come out the front of house. you might as well put these up to around about 10 here, so you give yourself some headroom. Okay, the blue, our red ones here are the submix. Now they are for sending the signal off to some other direction, but in our practical it's not necessary. Okay, these blue ones, by the way, are the stereo channels. These two here. Okay, if you're wondering what they are. Okay, so gain up, PFL, look at the signal over here, and then put the channel on, make sure the mix is up, make sure your main mix faders are up now, and then gradually, gently raise the fader. Okay, once the fader is up, you should be hearing signal coming through the front of house. Okay, and then we want to set up the monitor mix. Now the monitor mix in your practical should logically be going through the auxiliary 1. Okay, auxiliaries are here, 1, 2 and 3. This green one means that it's auxiliary 1, but it also means that it's a pre-fade auxiliary, and that means that it's going to be before the fader. Whatever you do to this fader will not affect how much signal is flowing through to the auxiliary send. Okay, the blue ones, they are naturally post. Okay, the third one is always post. The second one is switchable. Now this is tricky because in this view it's hard to see, but there's a little purple button down there, and that switches between pre and post. Down is pre, up is post. So I would imagine quite a lot of the time you might want it to be in the pre position. Okay. Right, so this one here, this auxiliary, that will send the signal. If we turn that up, that will send the signal that's coming from our mic or our DI through to a auxiliary send. Now that auxiliary send should be plugged in over here. Okay, and that sends it out to the monitor, and so the artist can hear what they're actually playing or hear backing tracks or whatever. Okay, but there's a key point here, people, and that is the fact that this one here, this is a master, and this should be up. Okay, these three are masters. You might as well, it wouldn't hurt, to put them up at 12 o'clock or unity at the beginning of the session, so you can just turn them up. It's good to leave the desk in default mode, which is them down, but when you start using it, you might as well stick them up to 12 o'clock, and that will mean that ample signal will get through once you start turning these other auxiliaries up. Okay, so that signal is up, and our master's up, and that then sends a signal to the monitor. Simple as that. These other ones, the second one, you're likely to use the effects unit in there, so you can turn that up, but this is where it gets a little more tricky, because what we do to plug it in is we send a jack out of auxiliary 2 to our effects unit. The effects unit comes back, and this is where you might not remember exactly what we do, but we bring it back onto a channel because we've got one spare. And it's good to put effects on a channel if you can, effects returns, because it's more flexibility, quite simply. Okay, so we'll stick, as we've been doing in practicals, we'll stick it onto 8, so it goes into the line in here, not the insert and not the direct out. It goes into the line in. Now you can use this channel as if the effects is an instrument. So if you're putting a microphone in or a DI, so you plug it into the line input. You can use a PFL button again and look at the signal coming through. Raise the gain up. You won't have to put up too much. But the main thing here is the fact that you definitely don't turn up the second auxiliary 2. Don't turn that one up, otherwise you get feedback. Okay. If you turn up auxiliary 1, that will send the effects to the monitor. Okay. And if you put the fader up on channel 8, which is, let me have a look. There it is. This one here. if you turn that up, have the on button in, okay, down, and the mix up, then it will come through the front of house. Okay, and that's pretty much it. The only thing I need to talk about is EQ. In the practical, you should have your EQ auxiliary 1 going to the 31 band EQ and then to the monitor. Make sure that is switched on so you can have the signal going through, and you can adjust the EQ on that 31 band EQ outboard unit, and that will affect the tonal characteristics of what's in the monitor. And of course we use it mainly, not so much for tone, but mainly to kill feedback. Okay, but the rest of the EQ on this unit here is this 1, 2, 3, 4 knobs here. Okay, each channel has them until you get to the stereo, which have only 2, a treble and bass. In this case, you've got the treble, the high, and then you've got a sweepable midsection, and then a bass. Now this bass one and the low and the high one here, these are fixed, and what that means is there's a fixed frequency that they're on, and then when you turn them up and down, you're cutting or boosting that frequency. The middle one, you can choose the frequency. So the black one here allows you to pick the frequency within a range, a bandwidth, okay, and you can select that frequency and then boost or cut it with the white one here. Okay. Last thing to say is that these are pans. You don't really have to worry about them too much in the practical, but they're pans, and that's about all we need to talk about. Okay, cool.